Thank you for this exclusive interview. You are known to be a friend and a collaborator of Ion Mihai Pacepa, the former general that defected from communist Romania. Now, your information is that he is dead, but in Romania there are many information. The most recent one related to his death was sometimes 5 years ago. So, how is it?
Pacepa and I have been friends for over a decade. Yesterday morning I received a call from his wife and now his widow. He had been in the hospital for a few days with COVID, and she received the official news yesterday morning, and she called me a little bit later.
Sorry to hear that. So finally the news is confirmed. How would you describe your relationship with Ion Mihai Pacepa? How did you get friends, first of all?
Well, we began, it's a collaboration. I had written some books on Pope Pius XII, the head of the Catholic Church during World War II. In 2007, he revealed in a column that the claim that the Pope had been Hitler's Pope or insufficiently concerned about the Jews was part of Soviet disinformation. I was at that time doing a second edition of my book, Hitler, the War, and the Pope, and I spent really about 2 years researching his claim to see whether it made sense. And at the end of 2 years, it made perfect sense. It answered questions that had plagued historians and that could not be answered before. So I wrote a chapter for the new edition of the book. I sent it to the publication where he had published his column. They got it to him. A few days later, he emailed me, and we began a friendly collaboration, writing emails. For a number of years, it was solely by email that I knew him. I don't think I met him in person until 2013 or 2014. And even then, I didn't know his secret identity. I didn't know him by his name that he lived under for several more years after that. But ultimately, we became close friends where we would talk on the phone. We emailed regularly throughout the time, but we talked on the phone. We met in person. Our wives got together and we had lunch, and so it blossomed into a true friendship.
And how was he as a person? As you said, his identity was revealed even to you later after you met him. How was he as a person?
Well, he was dedicated and driven, and he cared a lot, but he also could be very funny. He was. I remember a time we were sitting at a table with our wives, and he had mentioned that he'd sent me this file, and I didn't remember the file. And he said, well, he said, you know, you responded, you told me you had it. And I said, well, maybe I lost it. He turned to my wife and said, kill him, in a very funny way. but it seemed like you know, just to have heard a general give that order to a wife who might carry it out on me, I don't know. but he could be lighthearted, he could be funny, but he was very serious about his convictions.
And how was his relationship, let's say, with the country he left? Did he think often about Romania? Was he watching the news about Romania? And of course, the news about himself, because as I said before, there were so many news about Pacepa doing this, doing that, being everywhere in the same time, and so on.
He always watched Romanian news and stayed up on Romania. He followed the Romanian sports teams in the World Cup and the Olympics, and he loved Romania very much. And he spoke sometime about perhaps being able to return to Romania, and it seemed like he would look at the political climate to determine whether he thought it would be safe to go. Spoke with me about perhaps going sometime. And one time I thought maybe it was okay, and he said no, he thought the climate wasn't right at that moment. So he cared very deeply about Romania. And you know, I think, I know that there are people who have different opinions on him. I think he feels that he sacrificed an enormous amount to try to bring liberation and freedom to the people of his country in Romania.
There are also information about Pacepa that he actually returned in Romania incognito a couple of times or just once. What can you say about this?
I don't believe he did. He did not do it after I knew him, and he never mentioned doing it beforehand, so I don't think he ever did.
And how did you work together with Ioan Mihai Pacepa for your book, The Dezinformation?
Well, we did it almost all by email, and I think the proposal at first was something maybe I suggested, and a lot of people wanted to work with him, and he would never do it, but he cared about this, and I think he saw that I had spent 2 years researching this one tidbit that he had done, and that I concluded that it made sense, and so I think we came to a situation where he called me his younger brother sometimes. And I think there was a it was a working relationship that blossomed into a very close friendship.
So it was a very close friendship. Maybe you can tell us as well, how was he received in America after he's defected?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because when he first came to the United States, President Carter didn't really believe him. Pacepa had, of course, cultivated an image for Ceausescu that he was a new sort of communist leader, someone that the West could work with. And so when Pacepa arrived, Carter wanted to send Pacepa back to what would have been a death sentence. Fortunately, the CIA, our intelligence agency, convinced the president that Pacepa was telling the truth. And then when there was a change in administration, President Reagan fully embraced Pacepa, called his book Red Horizons his Bible for dealing with dictators, and so he would.
How should Romania see the death, the real death of Ioan Mihai Pacepa?
Well, I hope that people will realize that he left behind a life of luxury, that he risked his life, that he basically forfeited this life of leisure he could have had in order to do what he thought would be the best for the people of Romania, that he could reveal what was going on. And I think he was an enormous part of bringing down the Iron Curtain of the fall of communism, which certainly he believed was a very good thing. I believe was a very good thing. I know there are people who disagree with that. But he tried to reveal the evil side of totalitarianism and the call that sort of communism leads towards that. So I hope they remember him as someone who really sacrificed for his love of his country.
Thank you so much, Professor, for this exclusive interview.
Thank you.